Welcome everybody back to There Will Be Bets. This is our Super Bowl extravaganza. As always, I am joined by my co-hosts Jake LaSalle and Drew LaSalle. We're here to break down everything the big game. That's all we're going to focus on here. We're going to cover it from every angle you can possibly think of. We're going to talk about the spread. We're going to talk about the total. We're going to talk about your standard regular player props. We're going to talk long shot player props. These guys wouldn't let me do an episode if we didn't talk about touchdowns, so we're going to talk about some touchdowns. We're going to do some exactas. We're going to do everything you could possibly think of. We already touched on the coin toss last week, so we might not give that. Jake, are we still thinking heads? What are we thinking this year?
Sharp money.
Okay, sharp money on heads. So that's all we're going to talk about the coin toss. We'll move on from that, but otherwise we will jump. We will jump right into the game. So this game being played obviously on Sunday in San Francisco. Right now we're looking at Seahawks minus 4.5.
Santa Clara, but yeah, keep going. You're good.
Santa Clara, that is correct. Home of the 49ers, right near the electrical substation, I might add. But anyway, it is Seahawks minus 4.5 versus the Patriots. Total sitting at 45.5. Now, if I had to guess, you're not going to see a ton of movement in this line. Of all weeks of the year, there's a lot of money that's already come in from the general public on the Super Bowl. More will continue to come in, obviously, but you're very unlikely to see this line bounce around too much more than you already have. We saw it open around 3.5 and then jump out to 4.5. The total really has not seen much action either way, at least from my tracking. So I think that's where we're going to stand. We're going to go with these numbers. Obviously, if things drastically change, it's probably due to injury or some other crazy news. So again, minus 4.5. 45.5. Drew, I know you brought it up before we started. It seems like the whole world is kind of on the Seahawks. We'll let Jake throw in his tidbit here in a minute, too, about the Patriots. I don't know where we're going with this game, but at first glance, I'm leaning Seahawks. But the more we talk about it, the more you think about it, especially when you're talking 4.5, it's very interesting. I will throw out that before we jump into the full discussion, when you're talking about the Super Bowl, since 2004, so that's roughly the last 22 years, right? So a decent enough sample size. The team that is the underdog is 15-7 against the spread, and they're actually 13-4 when they're a 3 or more point underdog. So that's a pretty substantial lean towards the underdog in these situations, which is something that I was surprised when I looked it up. And then on top of that, in the Super Bowl, specifically these one-game winner-take-all situations, you're looking at 49 out of 58 winners, 87% of the time. The team that wins is the team that covers. So if you like the underdog, you have to like them to win the game. That is the way you have to look at this game. So guys, let's break this game down. Again, I don't really know if I had to pick a side on this game where I'm going. Again, my inclination would be to lean Seahawks. I see a lot of advantages for the Patriots as well.
Yeah, I'll start just on surface level. I think there's two stories that are kind of working in this game. The first being a bit of fatigue with the Patriots being good again, right? Obviously a 20-year dynasty, 6 Super Bowls, Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback to ever play. And wouldn't you know it, like they're back in the Super Bowl within 5 years. Worst nightmare for anybody in the AFC East, the AFC, or maybe just the NFL as a whole. So I think there's a lot of fatigue with the Patriots having success this early after Tom Brady. The second part is this dominant run that the Seahawks have been on. Incredible regular season. They beat out the Niners in a close, low-scoring game for the 1 seed, and then they proceed to just beat up the Niners in the divisional round, and then outlast the Rams in the NFC Championship. And really, I think it's just everyone assuming that they've seen the Super Bowl matchup already. Rams-Seahawks was the best game we're going to get, and the Seahawks will just cruise here. And early line movement, you saw that. It opened 3.5. It's up to 4.5, even touched 5 at different times. But I think when you look within the matchup and focus less about the storylines on each side, like you said, there are some advantages for the Patriots. I think that we've seen Darnold have some issues with turnovers, depending on the pass rush he's facing, the secondary. You could see Gonzalez shadow JSN a lot of the game, take him out of the game, and they really haven't had, when you look at the usage rate for JSN, they don't really have a lot of other receivers, tight ends that they rely on, and without Charbonnet as well. So yeah, I think there's some things on the field that the Patriots could have success with that maybe leans this podcast in a direction we didn't think we were going to end up going, back towards the Patriots.
Looking at this game, initial thoughts we gave last week was Seattle all the way. And then, started to do a deeper dive into this game and just looking at the matchups in general. On the defensive side of the ball with the Patriots, they're really good in the run game, especially with Milton Williams back. They've been exceptional. That's really what Seattle likes to do is they like to, utilize their run game, get into play actions, and then find Jackson Smith and Jigba on deep passes. They're big on run the ball and big explosive passing plays. The Patriots do not give up big explosive passing plays, and obviously they have one of the better corners in the league. So I feel like he's going to shadow JSN most of the game. Obviously not going to stop him. JSN's a monster, but I do feel like it slows them down. And then on the offensive side of the ball, the Seahawks defense is a top 3 defense in the league. I have been saying it all year. I think they're fantastic, but they do run a lot of man coverage, and they do they're not as good at rushing the passer as the 2 previous defenses that Drake May has struggled with. I feel like Drake May is going to have a lot of rushing yards. Because the game's going to be in his hands. A lot of man coverage leaves open lanes for running, just like against Denver. I feel like if they're going to win the game, it's going to be on the ground for him. I'll get into a few more of those plays later, but I just think the Patriots match up well with the Seahawks. The Seahawks are the better team, but I feel like the matchups are slightly in the Patriots' favor, and they're the team catching points. I feel like it's going to be an under game, which you always want the team catching points in an under. And then I've talked about this a little bit with Cole earlier in the week this week. It just has reminiscence of the Sean McVay unstoppable team offense, defense, with Jared Goff going in to play the Patriots with Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick scheming a perfect game and completely shutting down that offense. And Vrabel is a good defensive mind. They've got a good coaching staff there. I feel like you just could see a very well-coached game, and I could see the Patriots staying in it the whole way.
Yeah, the more I think about this game, and I'll admit, I probably more than anyone on this podcast thought it was Seahawks, easy, close the book, don't need to think that hard, let's have fun, talk about props, right? But then really thinking about the game, looking at the stats, I think that this game actually reminds me more, if you're going to talk about a Super Bowl in the last 10, 15 years, is the Broncos-Panthers game, where you have a team that you know is solid on defense, and you have some question marks on the offensive side of the ball, but you kind of trust the quarterback. And even I would trust Drake May more than you would have trusted Peyton Manning back in that Super Bowl. Meanwhile, you had the Panthers, who looked like a threshing machine that year, but when you really look under the hood, it was carried by like 1 or 2 guys. It was really the Cam Newton show, both on the ground and with his arm, and kind of the Greg Olsen receiving show, kind of his last big year as a pro. And that was really what carried that team. All of a sudden, ran up against a team that could schematically take away the couple things you were really good at, like we were just breaking down with being able to take away JSN, maybe limit the run game a little bit. Now, all of a sudden, the Seahawks might not look like the threshing machine that they've been against a lot of these other teams. So I actually think that's what this could look like. And again, that shocked me when I really looked at this. I will say Jake is correct in the fact that the Seahawks do not rush the passer as well as the Broncos or the Texans. They still are top 10 in sacks, top 10 in pressure rate, top 10 in hurries. So they aren't an awful pass rushing defense, but it is going to be a step down. And let's be honest, Drake May, he did struggle against those teams, but he also made big time throws. And so if you're telling me that he gets to take a little bit of a break after 2 weeks to prepare, and again, there's not one shutdown corner on this Seattle defense like there are on some of there's no Passer Tan, there's no Derek Stingley in this game. So, there's going to be more opportunities. Not that Woolen and Witherspoon and Eamon Worry and all those guys aren't good in the secondary. And I trust Mike McDonald more than anybody to scheme this defense up. I think there's going to be opportunities for Drake May to go over the top. I agree with these guys. Points are at a premium. And honestly, I think this is a question I'm going to ask both of you guys. Do we think this is one of the Super Bowls that comes down to special teams? Both these teams have been exceptional in special teams all year. Feels like it's going to be whoever can make a play in special teams might win this game. That's what it's starting to feel like to me when you're looking at these matchups. I don't know what you guys think. It could be the kickers. It could be a return. It maybe not even a touchdown, right? But like somebody takes a kick. You get Rashid Shaheed gets the ball into plus territory, or the Patriots cover a punt really well, force a fumble. I don't know what it looks like, but I mean we saw it kill the Rams. So I absolutely think that's what this could come down to.
Yeah, there's not a clear difference in. I mean, the Seahawks have a historically good special teams unit this year with the addition of Shaheed in the return game too. Myers has had like a game or two this year where he's missed a couple kicks, specifically that Week 18 game against San Francisco. But Yeah, it's not a crazy edge like it was for the Rams and Seahawks, where the Rams had struggled really all season on special teams. But I think it's a great point. Yeah, Marcus Jones has been great as a returner for the Patriots at times as well. I think Gibson had a return for a touchdown earlier in the year. So yeah, it could all absolutely be something that kind of um, decides the game in any form or fashion.
Yeah, and when it comes to the total as well, who do we trust more on the offensive play calling to? I know we really haven't touched on that much yet, but like McDaniels has been there before. I think he's done a hell of a job this year. But let's not slight on Kubiak either. I think that's the one part we really haven't touched on because I know we think it's going to be the defenses ruling the game. But do we think that either of these guys can dial something up, maybe turn the tide of the game a little bit? That's another question I have too.
I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I think this is going to be like just an amazing Super Bowl to watch. Just two sides with exceptional coaching across the board, offense, defense, special teams, head coaching, and it's going to be an interesting fight. It's going to come down to a couple of key play calls. Maybe it is on the special teams side, like you're saying, or maybe it's like a trick play here or there, or something like that. I feel like it's going to come down to one or two plays, in my opinion, and it'll just be whoever makes the right coaching decision at the right time.
And I guess for what it's worth, I know Mike Vrabel's never coached in the Super Bowl. You look at him as the more experienced guy, right? He's been a head coach for more than a couple of years, unlike McDonald. He has been a part of the Patriots organization as both a player and an assistant coach, so he's just been around that pedigree. Is this one of those games where the moment gets too big? Like, does Mike McDonald, make the wrong decision as far as like the head coach, not the defensive coordinator? I think he's going to be fine on that side, but the head coaching side of things. That sometimes you get a position where you have to challenge something or you have to make a go for it call that could end up flipping the game. He hasn't been in a lot of those situations. They've been killing teams. So how do we really know if he's prepared to make those gut decisions? Which we've seen Vrabel, he has proven he is a master, maybe the best in the league at handling game decisions, especially late, especially when it comes to managing the clock, managing timeouts. He never finds himself behind the eight ball in those positions, whereas we haven't seen McDonald do that. So that's another question I have. I think as far as our opinions, we'll talk here in a second about the under. I think that kind of helps us with both of these teams wanting to limit the amount of mistakes. They're going to limit the amount of time, putting themselves in as best position as possible. It's going to keep the game running a little faster, which I'm sure the advertisers aren't happy about. Maybe one less commercial break. I'll be thankful for that. But I don't know. How do we think about the coaching before we move on to the total? Anyone really think there's an edge-wise on the coaching in general, or do we think it's pretty even across the board?
I think you make a good point. I mean, Vrabel has shown, I think, even more in this season, like his end of game, end of half clock management has. He definitely did a deep dive in his off year of not being a head coach and how he can really maximize the value out of that those particular moments in the game. But it's hard to say. You saw McDonald really be challenged in that game with McVay, a lot of late game decisions, and even into the end of the first half. He got the better of him with them getting a late touchdown to end the half and going up 11 and the Rams having to punt back to them. But yeah, it's hard to really say one has the edge over the other. This is really a defensive first minded coach on each side of the ball. I think McDaniels kind of gets the edge a little bit over Kubiak in my mind from an offensive play calling standpoint, having coached in so many Super Bowls over the years, and Kubiak really kind of focused on the job search, it seems, for next season a little bit. So we'll see how that plays into it. I always think it's kind of funny watching how the coordinators of these really successful teams tend to get hired as head coaches in other places, and kind of how that impacts the preparation they might have going into the big game.
I think that it's pretty even across the board. I think there's a lot of talent on the coaching staff on both sides. Like I said, I think it's just going to come down to one or two decisions. Maybe the moment will be too big on the Seattle side. He hasn't been a head coach. So maybe something like clock management. That is the one thing Vrabel's been amazing at. I've not seen him make any true mistakes with managing the clock towards the end of the game, and Seattle just hasn't been in a lot of positions like that. So we'll see.
All right, I think we're all pretty on board there. I don't know if does anyone want to give out an official play on the Patriots, or are we all kind of just leaning that way, or is anyone, I know Jake might be the biggest candidate here, but is anyone officially stamping Patriots plus 4.5, or are we waiting and seeing?
I'm not giving out anything official on the side. There's a lot of props I prefer than the side, and I like that stat you gave around the outright winner keeps sticking in my head, because I do think the Seahawks find a way to win. And we've really I think the Rams might be the last outright winner to not cover in the Super Bowl. That was back
That's
when
correct.
they played
Yeah,
the
it was the
Bengals.
Rams
So,
Bengals, yeah.
and I mean, they honestly probably should have lost that game, but yeah, I don't know. I'm almost wondering, is it a Patriots money line? I know it's hard to just ignore 4.5 points in a tight game with that kind of, with everything on the line, but I do wonder if that's the play, and thinking like maybe a Seahawks -6 alt, maybe. I don't know. I'm still toying with those ideas though.
It's unconventional. The Super Bowl's unconventional. Like we said, you have to throw out conventional thinking. Any other week, I'd sit here and tell you 4.5 points is too many. Take that. Like, that's probably what I would sit here and tell you. But it's not a conventional thing. You have to pick the winner. I think if you like the Patriots, I think a better way to play it is play Drake May MVP, to be honest with you. And then maybe you play some Seattle in some fashion too. But I think there's probably not a very likely scenario where Drake May and the Patriots win this game and he's not the MVP. And you can get better odds than that. So like that, if you're going to talk about not playing the side, that's probably what I would do, is look at like a Seattle money line, and then you bet some Drake May MVP on the side and you even out that way.
I have not put in any 4.5 tickets. I have futures on both these teams. I did even them out, or I had more on the Patriots for winning, and I evened it out a little bit. I'm considering canceling that bet and just riding Patriots money line more. I do agree with you. I feel like if they do cover, they probably win the game, but it is hard to pass up 4.5 points if you think they have a chance to win the game.
I am also fortunate to have a future on both sides of this game, so I do get to kind of kick back, relax, and know I have a winner either way. I do make a little bit more if the Patriots win, and let's just put it this way, I have not evened it out either. That's just the truth. I was considering it. I was very much considering doing that and making my official Seattle play, but I don't think I am anymore. And if anything, I'm going to look to play this game live, see if I can get a good number. You know, maybe the Seahawks go up early, look for the Patriots at 7s. That's a number we've never really seen, so that brings in a whole different ball game of covering a number and still not winning the game. But we'll see how I decide to play it. One area where I know we're all kind of aligned is the total here. I think we all think it's going to be an under game, which, I mean, again, other than last week, the agreement across the board on this show has not been great in the playoffs. So I'm kind of leaning towards first half under, especially with this whole weird long halftime that the Super Bowl has, and teams like have a lot more time to make adjustments at halftime. I know that's like a known thing. Third quarters in the Super Bowl end up being higher scoring. But I definitely like the under here. I think the defensive breakdown that we already did talking about the sides applies to the total and then some. Mike McDonald, Wizard, I've said it every week. We've talked about the Seahawks. I trust Vrabel. I trust the staffs on both sides and on the field to show up, to be ready to play, to get after it and where they're good, which, again, it's best on best. It's the Seattle pass defense against the Patriots passing offense. It's the Patriots run defense against the Seattle running offense. It's really going to be hard for me to see the case for an over. I know it's the Super Bowl, which means everybody plays to the last play. Everybody keeps trying. You see late touchdown. We even saw it last year where like the Chiefs were throwing bombs to Xavier Worthy down 30. It's the way the Super Bowl goes. But I think under is the only way I'm looking on this total.
I'm thinking of the under as well. I do think an interesting point you make, taking the first half under might be a safer play. Teams might come out a little bit more conservative in the first half, don't want to make the first mistake. Therefore, that'll lead to, in general, being an under game for the first half. But like you say, people play to the last play. Chiefs game had some weird fluky touchdowns because, you can't give up. It's the Super Bowl. Nobody rests starters, you're taking more shots on defense. Like, say one team's down 2 touchdowns, you're blitzing more, trying to like make more happen, weird plays happen. So you might want to stick to the first half under and leave the full game under alone, just in case of some fluky stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you called out the thing that I worry about is the turnovers. Yeah, you've seen both of these quarterbacks put the ball in harm's way. Drake May's fumbled more than any quarterback in the playoffs, and not that the Seahawks have the pass rush that the Broncos or the Chargers or the Texans. They played everybody, but yeah, I worry about Darnold too. You give anybody short fields and late in game when the pressure is the highest, and that's how totals tend to squeak over in games that I think the Patriots should struggle to run the ball successfully. I think the Seahawks could have similar issues. I think we'll talk a lot about Ken Walker and Ramondre Stevenson here shortly in that regard. But And I already touched on the JSN part. I think Gonzalez shadows him, and you see Darnold have to force the ball to his tight ends and maybe a little bit more Rashid Shaheed, but that's not where they've had success this season. That's really, they've been so reliant on JSN to create big plays for them. But I think there's a lot of matchup things that point to the under in this one, but you remove that turnover luck a little bit if you focus in on the first half under.
And I think one thing that if we're talking kind of more the fun, exacta, call the game script I'm looking at is basically just playing either the first quarter under, or if you really want to get extreme, first quarter 0-0, and then going first half under, and then either doing a second half or a just the full game total if you want to add it in there. Again, depending on what you get scared of, you can play it either way, because obviously a second half number, if you even want to play like just the third quarter, something like that, whatever you're kind of feeling based on how you're looking at the game, or if you just want to split it and just do that first half but get more money out of it, right? So you go with that 0-0 or that under first quarter parlay with the first half, kind of just have some fun with that. I think that's a real fun way. And if you really want to get extreme, go non-correlated. Go first quarter under, first half under, second half over, like just something crazy like that, or full game over if you really want to kind of have some fun, if you think that's the way the script's going. I think those are all valid ways to play this game. Wouldn't shock me if you saw a late touchdown under 2 minutes, punch it in to cash an over for a ton of people. So, you know, if you're sitting around at a Super Bowl party, people could be getting excited late over a touchdown, whether it means something or not. So I think that's a possibility too. All right, you guys, that is our thoughts on not only the game itself, but particularly on the spread and the total of that game. We are going to jump into all of the player props and all of the more fun stuff here in a second. But if you are watching this video and you are enjoying, please do leave a like on the video. We've had a blast covering the playoffs and the regular season so far, looking to go out with a bang here in the Super Bowl. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell as well, so you get notified when we keep dropping our episodes. Our coverage of sports in general and even the NFL isn't going to stop with the Super Bowl. We'll be back next week. We'll be breaking down off-season stuff as far as coaching carousel, like we have been a little bit. We're going to be jumping in, putting more content out, especially about basketball. All of us kind of behind the scenes have been ramping up, getting ready for college basketball to head towards March Madness, NBA, the second half of the season into the All-Star break. MLB is right around the corner. Who knows? Maybe we'll throw in some golf, some World Cup, all of that stuff across the off-season. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Stick around. We're going to have some fun into the off season. Then, of course, you know, it's not that far away, even though it'll feel like it after the Super Bowl. We're not that far from NFL season next year. So make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe button, stick around with us all the way into next season.
Rebounding ladders.
Yes, rebounding ladders. They are happening and they're coming your way. Now that we've covered both the spread and the total of the game, let's hop into what we're calling the standard player props. These are going to be your regular player lines. Nothing crazy. We'll talk about our long shots and our touchdowns and all of our fun, dumb stuff here in a minute. We've noticed a theme as we've put all these together. We think that there's not going to be a lot of rushing yards in this game. It makes sense with the way these defenses play, particularly the Patriots, but we're eyeing both of the starting running backs in this game to go under. We're looking at Ramondre Stevenson under 49.5 rushing yards and Kenneth Walker under 75.5 rushing yards to start. Guys, I know the Milton Williams of it all is the obvious answer for why we like Kenneth Walker, despite being the only guy we've seen him get the full lion's share of the load last week, and I think that's going to be the same case again here. He has looked good when he's been given the ball, but teams just don't run the ball against the Patriots. And Ramondre Stevenson has to split time with Travion Henderson. The Seattle run defense is great as well. If the Patriots fall behind, they have shown a big tendency to just abandon the run game altogether if it's not Drake May's legs. So I think you guys are all in lockstep with me here when I say that these are two of my more favorite plays in general. Do we think that it's just as simple as trust the defenses? Is there more to this? What are we thinking on these?
Yeah, with regards to the Kenneth Walker in particular, that's my favorite play of the under. Obviously the Milton Williams, I think I said it was 71 yards per game the Patriots have averaged with Milton Williams, so an exceptional run defense. The one thing about Kenneth Walker, I've been a big fan of him, been pushing for him all year, and so Kenneth Walker is a very explosive running back. If he gets any space, he can break 10, 15-yard chunks, 30-yard chunks. But if you look at the stats from last game, it's a very boom or bust. Like if he doesn't find any space, tackled for 1-2 negative yards. If he finds space, it's like 8, 9, 10 plus yards. And you even saw that last week when against the Rams. And the Rams are a good run defense, but not insane. The one thing this Patriots defense, they do not give up explosives at all. Like you said, they stuff up the interior and force you out to their linebackers who make good plays. And I just don't see him getting those explosive plays that he needs to get over that total. And 75 feels like a high number, in my opinion. So I really like that play. And then the Stevenson look, I really think that Henderson is the better back. And I feel like he gets more of a split carry situation. And I just don't see over 100 yards. You know, if you're splitting carries, you assume like at max there's 100 yards in the game. It's just a lot harder to see him getting over that 50 mark.
Before I jump to Ramondre Stevenson, I just want to give myself a pat on the back about calling out Ken Walker's under at 84, 85 yards last week. I was laughed out of the building on this podcast. He went way under that, almost like the Rams defensive coordinator saw the pod and said we needed to stop him, but they had some other issues in that game. But anyway, yeah, agreed on the Kenneth Walker piece. I think we've talked at length about the Milton Williams impact, and I don't need to go further into that. He's my favorite player in the NFL if you've watched this podcast enough. Can't stop talking about that guy. The Ramondre Stevenson thing, the one thing I wanted to call out that you didn't mention, a lot of his usage, because Henderson has been pretty much voided out of the offense in the playoffs. He's seen anywhere from, I think, 3 to 5 carries across the 3 games they've played so far. But I think a lot of that is script driven, like most prop bets are. So been leading in every one of these games outside of the Denver one, but once they got the lead, it was Ramondre Stevenson, first, second, third down, just protect the lead at all costs. And I think if we believe the Seahawks are going to be leading in this game, assuming that the Patriots aren't just going to get out in front and run away with it, you should see Henderson get worked in more in the passing game. If there's any kind of like situations where they're behind early, I think you see him get worked in a little bit more, bit less Ramondre. I mean, his carries, even if you go back and look at these last 3 games, have been very heavily skewed to those late second half positive game script situation. So I love the Ramondre look. I agreed with the Ken Walker thing. We already love the Patriots run defense in that game. And if they're playing ahead, maybe you worry about that a little bit more, but I think it's going to come down to Sam Darnold having to throw the ball for them to have success on offense.
I think the other part, which you guys both touched on it without directly stating it, is that both of these guys are just inefficient runners. Kenneth Walker is incredible when he can break a big one. But like Jake said, he's super inefficient. It's 0, it's 1, it's 2, it's 12, right? That's just not efficient. And efficiency is typically what gets you over these numbers, especially if you're talking about a guy who's got a 75-yard rusher. I mean, that's pretty crazy for NFL standards, especially in a one-game sample size against a good rushing defense. And then Ramondre Stevenson is also not the most efficient. He just happens to be who they believe to be the more reliable back. The other part with his efficiency is he's known to fumble. He's a known fumbler. And Vrabel will doghouse him, and we've seen him do it in the regular season. And if you don't think Mike Vrabel won't doghouse him in the Super Bowl if he fumbles the ball, great. That means Travion Henderson will see more looks. It also probably means the Patriots fall behind because fumbles don't usually lead themselves to ending up positive for a game script sake. So I think that the inefficiency is what will really be key here, is if we can get a lot of those inefficient runs. Both of these teams are likely to abandon the run game, and these are the starting running backs. So if you're going to abandon the run game with the starting running backs, love the underlook on both of them. I think if you really want to get crazy too, I like to keep throwing out these crazy ideas. You take both of these guys under their prop. You take the game under prop. That's a nice little SGP for you as well. I think that's all very much scripted. It's all aligned. You're probably going to get nerfed pretty hard on your number there because obviously the books know that that's a very much aligned play, but it is kind of a ladder for these plays as well. If you don't want to necessarily have to go negative mind shaft ladder on any of these, you could just play them that way too. I think that's a fun way that you could play these. I don't think the rushing angles stop here though. I think the other rushing plays we want to talk about are Drake May over rushing yards, which I think perfectly aligns with the Ramondre Stevenson under. If you really think about it, it's basically we don't think Ramondre Stevenson's going to have success. The Patriots offense has been predicated around Drake May. He's had a lot of success on the ground. So I think that's pretty straightforward. And then one other thing we wanted to touch on is Seattle. It's kind of this misconception that people think Rashid Shaheed is this big threat in like the jet sweep game. I fell for it a couple weeks ago. I'll admit I played it myself, got made a fool. Rashid Shaheed has not been a big, especially since being traded to the Seahawks, has not been a big usage in the rushing game. And even when he gets the handoffs, he really hasn't gone anywhere. I think he's like gone over this number, which is 4.5 rushing yards once since he's been a Seahawk, maybe twice. I can't remember off the top of my head. So I like the Rashid Shaheed under 4.5 rushing yards. Chances are he's only getting one handoff, and chances are it's not going for more than a couple of yards. So those are the other two rushing props we're looking at in this game. Jake, I know you've been the Drake May rushing guy all playoffs. If Drew's been banging the drum for Milton Williams, then you've been banging the drum for Drake May rushing.
Yeah, I really like the Drake May rushing prop. I actually took it, I think, up to 40 and 60 plus on the alt for a little bit, a sprinkle. Drake May, the ball's in his hands. It's his. He's gonna try and make all the plays, make his team. And I've said before, the receivers that he has are not that exceptional, so he's gonna have to make a lot of plays by himself, and that leads to more rushing plays. We saw it in the Denver game. He crushed his total, got I think like 80 rushing yards or something like that. I don't remember.
Oh, he was the entire offense, not just the rushing. He was the entire offense.
And scored a rushing touchdown. I'll get to that later on our touchdowns, but he tried to do the same thing against Houston. He tried to keep taking off, but the only difference is Houston's pass rush was too fast and too good. So they contained him. I don't see Seattle having that same edge that Houston had, and I think like I said before, man defenses, tend to lose the quarterback. I could see McDaniel scheming towards it a little bit, but he's a very good runner. He's a very knowledgeable quarterback. He'll find a way to make some plays.
Yeah, I'm in line with the Drake May look. We already talked ad nauseum about the Ramondre Stevenson unders, but yeah, you've seen as he's been under pressure throughout the playoffs that his clock has been speeding up a little bit more and more each game, especially with, I know we won't have those types of conditions in this game, but you saw it in the Patriot game often. First read not there, go to the run right away. I've considered his rushing attempts. I think it's sitting at 6.5 on the over as well. But yeah, I like the Drake May look on his normal line between 37, 38.5. I like the 50-yard piece, and I even like what you mentioned around just leading the full game in rushing. Like we're talking about taking these unders on both running backs. Sam Darnold is not going to wow you with his legs, so rushing yards are going to come from somewhere. And if we're seeing a game script that has the Patriots behind, it's going to be heavy passing situations. The Seahawks run zone at a higher rate, which isn't as conducive for running attempts for May, but you may see a few other schemed up runs for him. McDaniels has worked those into his game plan the last few weeks as well.
I'm totally on board with the Drake May to lead the game in rushing yards as well. I think that if you're already looking at his team and going under 50 yards on Ramondre, we'll see what happens with Travion, but you're already making it look like he's going to lead his team in rushing if your script you're predicting goes right. And then all it really means is we have to be kind of correct on that Kenneth Walker thing. I think there's a very good chance there. I think the number's around 7-1. Love those odds, right? That's great on a guy who's a legitimate threat with his legs too. And then again, kind of to bring it full circle on the rushing thing, the Rashid Shaheed, I think it's going to be a big Ponzi scheme type play where a lot of people think they're outsmarting the room when the room is just outsmarting them, because that's kind of how it goes. Again, admittedly, I've been there before. I think that if you're going to see Seattle try to change things up, throw some trickery in, I think they're going to go the full distance. They're not just going to rely on a jet sweep or something like that. I think they're going to go the full distance and do something really crazy, the double pass, get JSN involved in some weird way, the hook and lateral, something like that. So I don't think if you're relying on it being just like a Shaheed around the end, I don't think you should rely on that to be the play. So I think it's worth it. It's gross. It's stinky. You're rooting the whole game to basically see him get maximum one handoff, but I think it's very much a play as well. One last player prop we all like, and if you think that Rashid Shaheed under 4.5 rushing yards is a little too gross for your taste, let us try to sell you on maybe the grossest play we're going to give out all night. We like Seahawks second tight end Elijah Arroyo over a half reception, and we're not going to stop there. We're going to get crazy. We're going to take over 1.5 receptions. So 1 and 2 receptions in the Super Bowl for Elijah Arroyo. Why do we like that? He hasn't played in a while. But when he does play, he typically records 1 to 2 targets. He has caught a pass in 11 or 12 games this season, so that would cash your singular over a half there. And he has had 5 games with 2 or more catches. So he has shown that he can catch the ball when they need to, especially because Darnold is the type of guy who likes to use his tight ends as his check down. A.J. Barner has been solid, but the way they use A.J. Barner is more of an intermediate threat. Elijah Arroyo will take the place of the check down. Now, Kenneth Walker is a little bit better out of the backfield than Zach Charbonnet. That was usually Zach Charbonnet that he would avoid going to, and it would go to Elijah Arroyo. But at the end of the day, I think there's still the opportunity there if he plays. It's really gross. Guys, I don't know what your thought on this is, but I think it's worth a shot.
My look into this was honestly, it's just snap count. He averaged 40% snap count when healthy, which is one of the highest compared to even some of the receivers. And for a prop to be over, to get 1 catch and it to be plus money, it just felt like a good prop for somebody who's on the field. I think also in the games that he actually did play, he got around the 40% snap count. I think it was 7 of 10 or something. He had at least 1 catch, and he had up to 4 in one of the games. So as long as you're on the field, you got opportunity to get the ball. And so that's why I like it.
I'm looking at his game log. 15 catches in total on the season. 4 of which, you're right, came in the Houston game alone. So, yeah, that's 11 catches in his other 12 games. So, yeah, this thing has gotten steamed a little bit on his just over a half of a catch, or just to record 1 catch. But I get the thinking, and if I keep harping about how Christian Gonzalez is just going to take JSN out of this game magically, then somebody's got to catch the ball. Like Ken Walker's going under, JSN's getting taken away. Somebody has to catch the ball in this game. So I don't think it's going to be Shaheed. He had his 1 luck box deep ball that he had in that Rams game, but he's been tight end dependent. So yeah, I love me some Barner, love me some Arroyo in this one. I'm behind this.
And if I could just sell you, not on the stats, I think those speak for what they are. It's Jake broke it down perfectly.
Don't
it's
look
about
at
snap
those.
percentage. It's about snap percentage. It's not going to be sexy. But can I sell you on the thrill? There is nothing more thrilling than in the middle of the second quarter, where no one else even knows the guy catching the ball, and you get to go insane because you cash a play. It's one of the more exciting things you can do at a Super Bowl party. So even if you just throw some couch change, some pizza money, or instead of playing the dumb Super Bowl squares your mom is going to try and get you to play, put it on this instead. You'll have way more fun. I promise you. You get to sweat the whole game and not have to worry if your Super Bowl square numbers are 9 and 5 and you're just out of it. That's my sell on that if you don't want to trust the data on that one.
What about Elijah Arroyo? Anytime touchdown.
I mean, we're probably going to give out some other stuff that's just as crazy, so why not? What if that one catch? What if that 1 catch is the touchdown? I mean,
well, it's like Elijah Arroyo is number 81, right?
That's a great question.
He's number 18.
It was
You're
one
close.
of their. Okay, well, there was a backup tight end who had his first catch in 4 weeks, who caught the touchdown. The game they were they caught the overtime touchdown against the Rams for the Seahawks. I know that it was not Barner. It was
no. It starts with an H.
Yeah, something like that.
Or what's that guy's name?
Who did a block release?
Eric Saubert.
Yeah, who did a block release to catch the overtime touchdown against the Rams. So, just saying.
Oh yeah, you never know. And I mean, we'll talk about touchdowns here in a second. I think screw it, why not? It's fun to go be the big on the touchdowns. We'll talk about the longest touchdown of the game too, because it's kind of a fun prop that one of the big sports books out there puts out. Do not pick Elijah Arroyo for that. He's not a deep threat. I promise you. That'll be the one thing you should not do. He's not a deep threat. Now we covered the normal player props. Let's jump into what we're calling the long shot and touchdown props. These are going to be your sprinkle, your couch change, your extra fun, your escalator ladder plays on top of your regular prop plays. Got a few of them here. Some of them are correlated to our regular prop plays. So, you can always throw them in there, play them all how you like. Again, finding the best way to play your correlated angle here. To throw off the top, we won't touch on it much more because we did touch on it just a few minutes ago with Drake May, but we all like Drake May to lead the game in rushing yards. I think that's a fun prop to play, especially if you're going to play his rushing yards over. I think also, I mentioned it before, if you like Drake May MVP, we'll talk MVP here at the end. I think you got to play that if you're looking at his rushing yards and stuff like that too. So I think that's all kind of correlated together. We're going to take a shot with Travion Henderson 50-plus rushing yards because, you know what? Maybe Ramondre Stevenson's just not in the game. And what if Travion Henderson breaks one? So it's a big plus number. I think it's sitting over 8-1, at least last time I looked. I think it's worth a little sprinkle, too, if you're going to play Ramondre under and you're kind of thinking it could be Travion Henderson. I think that's kind of worth that shot. I think we're all kind of in agreement there. But the other more fun stuff that these guys wanted to bring up, and again, they wouldn't let me go a whole episode about the Super Bowl if we didn't talk touchdowns. We're going to talk some longer shot touchdowns. We're going to look at this from two angles. Number one is just touchdown scores we like and maybe some ladder on them. And we have a couple of plays for the king of the end zone from DraftKings, the longest touchdown of the game. We have a couple of guys we like in that particular vein that we also think are viable scoring options, so we'll touch on all of those. First and foremost, just as far as touchdowns goes, Jake, of course, as he's kind of done all postseason, loves Drake May touchdowns, but he's got a ladder for you too. Jake, what are you doing with this one?
I like Drake May to score, and I like Drake May 2+ touchdowns for a small amount. We saw it in the Denver game. They only got, I think, one play, or might have been on second down, direct snap. Drake May run up the middle. I was hinting at the man coverage, and he might have to scramble because nobody's open. They're just he's just going to do it on his own. He's going to go full Josh Allen, and he's going to do it on his own. So I like just the opportunity to for him to get that. If he gets in the red zone, I feel like he's going to take matters into his own hands, and he's going to make a play.
Awesome. And then you think if you're playing one, you have to play two? Is that kind of your mindset here? Is you might as well just go all the way?
Do what you want with your money. I just feel like if they get down in the red zone, he's going to take matters into his own hands. He's going to be controlling the ball. They're not going to be handing it off. He's going to make the play.
So this kind of, I'll spoil one of my, in our category of fun and dumb props. One thing I like is that the yardage of the shortest rushing touchdown, or the shortest touchdown, doesn't even have to be rushing, just the shortest touchdown to be under 1.5 yards. So it means a 1-yard touchdown. I think that could correlate with your Drake May a little bit because obviously you assume the best chance for that is either a 1-yard handoff or a 1-yard sneak. I think that could very much be Drake May that's helping me out with that too. So I get the look. I think it's fun. If you're going to play one, it's also fun to play two, given you're getting some good plus money on both. The other guys we want to talk about as far as touchdown scores, these ones we'll kind of all throw our opinions on. If it's good, bad, ugly, whatever we're thinking here. But again, these are going to be more of your DraftKings, king of the end zone, longest touchdown type plays. We like two Patriots. It's linked a lot to the fact that Drake May is a deep ball guy, and the Seahawks really only have one guy they like to throw the ball to, and that's JSN, who's the most obvious pick on the board. Why would we ever take the obvious picks on the board? That's not what you come to us for. We're going to be taking Kayshon Boutte. We're going to be taking Mac Hollins to score a touchdown. Again, this will be for your looks at the king of the end zone, if you like that as well. Both of these guys have caught long touchdowns from Drake May, not only in the regular season, but in the postseason. They're both guys who average a few targets a game. If you look at Boutte, he's right in like the 2.2 catches a game rate. Mac Hollins a little bit below that, but obviously the injury that he suffered at the end of the year played a little bit of a factor. I think both these guys are liable. More importantly, these are guys who will only run the deep route. They're not going to be more of your intermediate like a Stephon Diggs or a Hunter Henry. So against this Seattle defense, it has a lot more of a likelihood that they're getting into either single coverage or they're just attacking a deep third player. It's not really having to attack the middle of a dialed-in zone. I think there's a lot of chances that you could just catch one of those certified Drake May deep balls down the seam.
I think that's worth a look. It's where the Patriots have really been dependent on the entire season. They haven't been able to run the ball with consistency, and we all think they won't be able to against the Seahawks. So, yeah, going to have to take shots down the field with Boutte, maybe a little bit more intermediate ones with Diggs. Maybe Hunter Henry gets into the mix. I know that we have some love for him as well in this game a little bit, but yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. You take the Patriots with a bit more long shots. You assume, I'm going to sound like a broken record, you assume JSN maybe gets held up a little bit by Gonzalez. And yeah, you don't really have a lot of explosive weapons on the Seahawks outside of Shaheed, I guess, but he's not really that guy. We've talked about that already.
Plus, if you're looking just in general at an under, that means you're thinking 3 touchdowns, maybe 4 max. Slow, methodical teams or a team on the other side minus JSN. So, yeah, you could be looking at like a 20-yard touchdown being the longest touchdown. So I kind of like the look, like you said, just a outside go route or just a seam route could just cash the longest touchdown.
Just again, our general take on, especially in this game, is don't take the guys at the top of the board. That's what everybody's thinking. At the end of the day, it's kind of a game theory thing. Is you're trying to maximize your payout on somebody you still think can score. JSN going to be tough. Kenneth Walker going to be pretty tough. Even Drake May, to a certain extent, I think is going to get some love. We also learned in the Seahawks game against the 49ers, Rashid Shaheed, tons of love. He ended up being the king of the end zone, and I still don't think it was a massive payout because A, he had to split it with defense and special teams, but he was also like one of the top few picked guys because of the whole punt return aspect. So I think really looking down that board is where you can have some fun with it, especially if you like somebody's chances to score in general. You should play them for that promo if that's a promo you're going to be looking to play. That's just our take on it.
Yeah, you have to be thinking of just how many people are going to be betting this. It is the Super Bowl. And so you take a guy like JSN, say he gets the longest touchdown, you get a, like $10, $15 bonus bet. Might as well go for the long shot. Try and get some actual money.
Yeah, for example, I think last year I played Xavier Worthy in this same promo. And on that like late bomb he caught, I think it was like a $32 bonus bet. And he was by far from the chalkiest player you could have picked in that game. It still was only that much. So the farther down the board, I think the more fun you can have, especially because it's a low barrier to entry. Might as well just take the shot. So one other way we're going to look at taking shots in this game is obviously on MVP of the game. And I think this year more than many is an interesting one because there's no super clear favorite. Obviously, the quarterbacks are always the favorite, but there's no clear favorite because arguably the quarterback that makes the most sense to be the MVP for their team is a 4.5-point underdog with his team, and that's Drake May. Sam Darnold has the fun narrative, but he plays on a team with an elite wide receiver. Kenneth Walker is the solo running back, meaning there's a chance he could rack up a couple of touchdowns and some decent yardage, right? There's that possibility there too. So there's no like clear favorite. So I think there's a lot of opportunities and game scripts that could play into this. So we have a few people we want to throw out. One of them's a super long shot that Drew will get to here in a second. The MVP always goes to the winner. It's just a certified thing. It's always going to go to the winner. So you're essentially looking at this like a money line parlay with a good performance out of the player that you're taking. That's kind of how you have to think of this. So we're looking at the Seahawks. If we're going to look on the Seahawks side, we think you have to go JSN because of the volume of targets that he gets, the performance he's been able to put out, that even if Darnold has a good game like he did against the Rams, JSN put up such a good game. If you were going to pick an MVP, and I can't remember if they name an MVP or not for conference championships, but it would have been JSN in that game. That's who it would have been. So I think JSN at like plus 500, plus 600 is absolutely worth the look if you like the Seahawks, because if you think Darnold's going to have success, if you believe what we believe about the Patriots rush defense, it's not going to be a lot of love for Kenneth Walker there. I think JSN gives you a lot more value than somebody like Darnold does. Then I think it's pretty simple to me. If you like the Patriots, you got to like Drake May. He's a quarterback, but I just don't see a world where anyone else on the Patriots, unless just this is a slog of a game and a defensive or a special teams player flips the entire game on its head in a very low-scoring affair, it's going to be Drake May.
I took JSN for a small amount already. I agree. I think if the Seahawks win this game, there's a high chance that it could be on JSN's shoulders. And therefore I think he could win the MVP. I also put a small amount on JSN to break the receiving record of 216 receiving yards. It's it was 30-1. Do I think it's actually a possibility? Probably not, but he has been racking up 150, 160 plus total yards. He could break away. He could do a lot of things. He's an exceptional player, so like I said, I lean JSN if that's if it's the Seahawks. And then I agree. I've already said it at length how I think if the Patriots are going to win this game, it's going to be on Drake May's shoulders.
All right. Yeah, I don't have any disagreement here. I'm taking a total flyer. I'm going with DeMarcus Lawrence to win the Super Bowl MVP. Not a Cowboys homer situation here. He's pretty much pooped on the Cowboys since he departed Dallas last offseason. But this is purely let's say the Seahawks win and we get another stinker from Darnold game where he turns the ball over a couple times. He's like takes himself out of the race for MVP. DeMarcus Lawrence has 6 sacks on the season. Nothing crazy. He's been a really good player for them in the run game, really been a veteran along that defensive line that's been really fantastic against the run. I look at this primarily because he's going to be lined up against Will Campbell for the majority of the game, who, although has been good prior to the injury, has been really poor since he returned from it. And you saw that in games against the Texans. Will Anderson just abused him all game long. unfortunately, Lil Bro ass CJ Stroud was not going to let them win that game. So I'm thinking I like Lawrence to go over a half sack in this one anyway. And if we see a bad Darnold game combined with a big game from DeMarcus Lawrence, you give a sack, 2 sacks, maybe a couple TFLs, a strip sack in a big moment, something like a Von Miller like game in that Panthers Broncos Super Bowl we saw in 2015, where low total game like we're talking about with this one, and you just see a huge game-changing defensive play from DeMarcus Lawrence. I think there's a path that 100-1 seems like a crazy number to me for a guy that along the D-line was right up there in sacks, leading with this team. I think the leader's at 7, he's at 6. So yeah, I think this is kind of a crazy number, couch change play that maybe you see a bad Darnold game and they still win. You never know. I've seen crazier things happen. I watched Malcolm Smith win a Super Bowl MVP, so you never know.
I mean, I was going to bring up, wasn't it like Brandon Graham who won the Super Bowl MVP off the one play against the Patriots? And there was 2 high-scoring teams in that game, wasn't it? Or did Foles win it?
That was Nick Foles. Come on.
I thought he won. I don't know why.
There was a situation in the Patriots-Rams game, the Super Bowl, where Dante Hightower, I don't think he won, but had legitimate, people were talking about he could have been the MVP in that game because I think he had an interception, or maybe a forced fumble, something like that, a lot of tackles. I think that's the same argument.
Edelman won that Super Bowl MVP. He won the Rams Super Bowl MVP because he had like 8 for 100.
Yeah, but I think there was a legitimate case to be.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was one of the grossest games I've ever watched.
Sense. Yeah, so I mean, again, but that's the type of game we're talking about. So who says that someone like Lawrence couldn't do it? And I mean, even if you're having fun with it, let's sprinkle a couple defensive players. Don't just if you're gonna go that route. I think again talking couch change, I think pick 2 or 3 of them. I don't think just stop it at 1. If you think it's going to be a defensive guy, don't find yourself in a position where it ends up being a defensive player and you just pick the wrong one. Like sprinkle a few of them if you're going to go that route. I think that's the fun way to do it.
That would be devastating.
Yeah, especially if you think it's going to be a gross game.
Yeah, you don't want to be right on your game script and then not even have, so at least pick a guy on both sides would be my at least my take there would be at least pick a guy on both sides. And especially if you're looking to Seattle, I'd go with a couple different guys, like guys that you think are true playmakers.
I'm just eyeballing odds right now. Hold on.
You do kind of need it to be like a gross game where there is no game-winning play. Because, for example, even James Harrison did not win the MVP when he had the most important play in the Steelers Super Bowl. Santonio Holmes won it. So you need it to not be a big
it needs to be a low-scoring game. Yeah,
it needs to be low-scoring and not have the best a big game-winning play.
Let's just put context to this Lawrence number. Jason Myers and DeMarcus Lawrence have the same odds to win MVP. Like that is just so mispriced. It is crazy.
Maybe he'll have 6 kicks.
Miss Jones 111-1. Emawari 85-1. Yeah, I mean Leonard Williams 100-1 as well. There's some guys. Yeah, you just sprinkle on. I think Emawari. Leonard Williams. I don't know if I could get to that. D tackle winning would be pretty unprecedented.
No.
I know we were talking about we think it's like a surefire. You got to go Drake May if it's the Patriots. I think if you're looking defense, you got to go Gonzalez too. I think there's a potential there because of the volume share with JSN. If he has a big game, gets a couple deflections, maybe a pick.
Yeah, if he gets a pick or a pick 6, I
150-1.
Yeah, I think you have. If you're going to go defense, I think you have to include Gonzalez as your other Patriot, in my opinion.
I could see some couch change on him.
Yeah, I think there's fun ways to play it. I think we laid out. I think we laid out the argument for the guys we actually like to win the award. I think we laid out the argument for if you're going to go for the long shot, the season changing type of win for your bankroll. I think those are the ways to go. So that brings us to the final little segment of the show. I'm calling them the fun or dumb props. Call them whatever you want. These are your props that we're not really going to give you any hard-hitting insight, just kind of some things that really they only offer for the Super Bowl. So sure, we're going to play them. We're suckers like that. If they're going to give us the opportunity to have some fun, we'll have some fun. Drew, you got one for us. Then Jake, you got one for us. I'll wrap us up with a couple more. What do we got?
This is pure speculation here. Just a crazy number in my opinion. I'm going with a field goal or extra point to hit the upright or crossbar. Sitting a little over 4-1 481 plus I think 410 is what DraftKings had it on. Yeah, I don't have a ton of data to back this one up. This is purely you're going to be on the edge of your seat for every single kick of this game. And if we're saying that we think these defenses could dictate the game a little bit, you see maybe these teams struggle in the red zone a little bit, couple more kicks. We've seen, Jason Myers hit an upright on a 26-yarder in Santa Clara just a few weeks ago. So purely a fun bet. I just did a quick check on the weather. Not even crazy wind gusts. I think we're going to get max 10 miles an hour. So this is just purely fun. Throw a little $5 bet on this. Maybe get yourself $20. Yeah, crazy bet, but a lot of fun.
I think that's the deepest analysis anyone's ever done on hitting the crossbar, by the way. So there you go. That for that alone, I think I'll tell you. Jake, what do you got?
I think this is a crazy number. That's what you're saying.
He calculated it, and he says there's a 22% edge based on his projections.
This should be sitting at...
I do agree, though. If you want wall-to-wall entertainment, to be on the edge of your seat the whole game, you got to take some fun stuff. One of the bets I really like is over 2.5 people to record a pass. In the Super Bowl, there's just a lot of trick plays, things that happen. Actually, 3 out of the last 4 Super Bowls, there have been 3+ players to throw a pass. It's just a fun thing. People in the Super Bowl, they throw out trick plays. It is plus money at over 2.5, so I like it. And then what I'm going to tie to that and tie to my Drake May touchdowns is any QB to record a reception. It was sitting around plus 1,000. There have been 3 quarterbacks in the past 20 years that have caught a pass in the Super Bowl, which technically is better value than the plus 1,000. I could see them pulling out a Philly special in New England. I could see them throwing it to Drake May, doing something cool. So I like that bet as well.
Yeah, that's fun. And I will say, just real quick on the over 2.5 people, that does include backup quarterbacks. So that could always be your bailout too. Even if it's not on a trick play, it could always end up being a backup quarterback because of injury, because of, I guess, like we saw last year, blowout. So it's always a possibility too. God, the calculated analytical edges you guys found, crazy. I did not do that much work for mine. So mine are just blatantly not that. So I'm going with exact winning margin by 1 or by 2. I think you just kind of root for the game to come down to a game-winning field goal. And obviously a 3-point margin is too low of a price to really play because that's a common landing score. Just go either team to win by 1 or either team to win by 2. You're looking at like plus 15 to 100, depending on what you want on these plays. I think it's fun. And then that way, when it comes down to the end of the game and everybody's on the edge of their seat, if a team's going to hit a game-winning field goal, you're like, yes, I cashed. And I don't care who wins as long as it goes through, right? Like as long as it lands on the margin, or even if you're sitting there at a 1-point game and they miss, you still cash. So that's my thought on that. And the one I like, because it could turn you into the villain of the Super Bowl party if what gets it for you is a pass interference in the end zone. But I like shortest touchdown yardage under 1.5 yards. That means a 1-yard touchdown to happen, essentially. Or if somehow it lands between 1.5 and 1 yard where the ball is snapped, you can still win there. But I like that because, again, it's basically just, can they get the ball down to the 1, and then you can root for a sneak, a short handoff. And you know what? It does give you a reason to root for the refs. We hate it when the refs show up on our TV, but you know what? If you have this, you will have never loved a ref more than seeing that pass interference on 3rd and goal to give you a fresh set of downs on the 1-yard line. So that's why I'm playing this one. I think it'll be fun, and I want to be the villain at the Super Bowl party, so that's why I'm going to take it. All right, you guys. Well, that was everything Super Bowl. We kind of covered the game from every angle possible. Other than the Gatorade, which I guess real quick, anyone have thoughts on Gatorade? My guess is green, just simply because that would be a Seahawks win. Do you guys have any thoughts on the Gatorade? Maybe red if the Patriots? I don't know.
Did they do red, or is it going to be like more of like a purple?
Go with orange.
Dark horse.
I got nothing for you on why.
You don't have a calculated edge for me on color. You had calculated edge on everything else.
I've actually been tracking distribution of Gatorade in and out of the Santa Clara era. There's been a huge uptick in orange the last few weeks, so do with that what you will.
Okay, all right, orange. So there, now we've officially covered every possible angle that you can look at the Super Bowl from. We do have an agree board. We have a few things where we won't talk about all of the crazy stuff, but generally speaking, we all think this game is going to be an under game. We think the defenses are going to show up. We're all on board with the under. Along with that, we think it's going to be a bad rushing game. We like the under rushing for both of the starting running backs, and we think it's going to be a tough time for them. The only guy we like the rushing on, and we like him in general, is Drake May. We like Drake May over his rushing yards. We think he's going to have a good game. We think if you like the Patriots, he's absolutely worth a look at the MVP. And if you like the Patriots, he is the reason you're going to like the Patriots. So we love Drake May, and if you want to play him, we're all on board with playing him too. No real head-to-heads. Nothing too crazy. There's only one game. I thought maybe we were going to get one with the Seahawks versus the Patriots, but as we kind of admitted, the Patriots are more on that agree side, not officially for all of us, but no real head-to-heads. So again, that'll bring us to the end of not only another episode, but the end of the NFL season. The NFL's not going to go away. It's a year-round sport now. We'll keep covering it all the way through the offseason, but this is our last episode full of plays until we get to next year in August and September. So it's been a fun ride. We are super excited to see how the Super Bowl plays out. We can't thank you guys enough for tuning in every week, checking out all of our plays, whether it's crazy, disgusting unders, whether it's fun, favorites, whatever it looked like throughout the season. We had some ups, we had some downs. It's been fun. So we're definitely thankful for all of you guys. If you did enjoy this episode, please be sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button to continue watching all of our stuff again, all the way through all of the rest of the sports coming up. We've got basketball, we've got baseball, we've got World Cup, we've got off-season football. We'll talk about the trade deadline. We'll talk about the draft. We'll talk about off-season. We'll talk about, all of that stuff. Maybe in the summer when things get a little slow, we'll even start ranking some players. I'm pretty excited to kind of do that too. So please, if you did enjoy, hit that subscribe button. Keep, rolling with us all through the off-season. But as we end every episode, we want to always wish everybody good luck on their wagers this weekend, especially. Let's have one big final kickoff for everybody for Super Bowl Sunday, and good luck on your wagers come for Super Bowl Sunday.
Let's have a week.
Let's go.